This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Well, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but they are now going to be glorifying Aleister Crowley, scumbag, whatever you want to call him. They are now going to be featuring him in the television series Strange Angel. Now, I covered that show. It's about Jack Parsons. It glorifies Satanism and the occult, but of course they make him into a hero. This is just all that we're seeing, right? These days, all of these people who are, outed as occultists and Satanists who practice black magic in the past have now become glorified. And what do we see? Everything inverted, right? Christians have become the villain because we're considered bigots and hateful people. Jesus has become the enemy of man. This is all prophecy being fulfilled. So it shouldn't come as a shock, but it's pretty unbelievable that they would even go to the lengths to have Aleister Crowley in the show. And it's even funnier how they describe Aleister Crowley. Of course, they don't mention the fact that he was involved in black magic, Satanism, that involved children, that he spoke of blood and human ritual sacrifice, and the most powerful one being that of a young boy. Of course, they don't talk about that. What do they say in this article? Of course, they talk about Thelema, and they talk about how Aleister Crowley, the founder of Thelema and an accomplished man of mystery, as well as a writer of novels, a climber of mountains, and a master spy. I mean, I think of all the things I would think to describe Aleister Crowley, none of those would come in the top 50 million words that would come to my head to describe him. But of course, just like they're doing with Jack Parsons, they're glorifying him, and they're showing these rituals occur. They're showing the power that they gain from these rituals. Okay? And they're making it look like it's something that's cool, and they might go, ooh, it's dangerous, but the things you can gain from all of this stuff. Now, the video I did on Strange Angel, which is just a ridiculous name in general for the actual series, CBS took it down and blocked it worldwide. Sometimes when you put like a clip from one of these shows in, they'll just block you from being able to monetize, and they'll take the ad revenue from the video. But in this case, they blocked it worldwide, and I don't know where that video is anymore, but if I find it, I'll re-upload it. And I go into detail about the series and about Jack Parsons and his connections, of course, to NASA, right? And you can see how all of these people, right, are all connected to all of these government agencies like Central Intelligence, right, with Crowley being connected to the Bushes being connected to Central Intelligence, Parsons being connected to NASA, right? And everybody thinks, nobody would think this was ever going on. They would never think it in a million years. But if you connect the dots, all of this stuff leads back to black magic and the occult. And all of these, these government organizations of power and control and manipulation all lead back, to the Central Intelligence, and all these places lead back to Crowley, Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, and Scientology. All of these people who were doing these rituals in which they were summoning and doing these Babylonian-type rituals, summoning demons to the earth, opening gates and things that aren't supposed to be open. And of course, these are people who are now glorified in today's society because we've allowed that to happen. And how have we allowed it to happen? Well, we've allowed celebrities to glorify these individuals like Jimmy Page and Jay-Z glorifying Crowley all the time. And, Parsons being glorified by this series on CBS, being glorified by NASA as a rocket scientist and a brilliant man, right? So people see that and they go, oh, he's a brilliant man and he's a rocket scientist. I should strive to be such an engineer and such a smart person. And then they show him doing these dark black magic rituals. And of course, they sexualize the ritual. So they make it look like it's just some type of orgy thing, like from Eyes Wide Shut. They don't talk about the teachings of Crowley and the dangers and all of the stuff around it. And especially, of course, the stuff involving Satan and children and human sacrifice, right? Like I always talk about, those are the things that they'll leave out. So they say the series, which is created by Mark Heyman, based on a book of the same name, Strange Angel, explores the bizarre true story of Jack Parsons, a man who straddled the worlds of science and the occult, pioneering America's racketeering program while simultaneously practicing sex magic rituals and living by the creed, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And remember, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law under love. Right? Love is the law. And that's why you see this universal love movement coming, this tolerance movement, because it takes away free speech If you speak against anything, right, it's hate speech. Nobody can stand up for themselves. The bullying movement, all of these things that we see going on all tie in to Crowley's teachings and tie into the arrival of the Antichrist and the worshiping of Satan. Okay, so the reason that a show like this would be out there is to start normalizing the teachings of Crowley, normalizing the Jack Parsons, what he did, what he meant to NASA, wink, wink, right? And they say at the conclusion of season 1, Jack and his team make a scientific breakthrough that secures the military's interest as the country nears the brink of war. In season 2, the U.S. is fully engaged in World War II, transforming Jack's rocketeering work into a lucrative business and further entrenching him into the military-industrial complex, right? And all of this stuff does tie into the military-industrial complex. All of this stuff involving Satanism, the occult, black magic. You can even look into guys like, I can't even, Michael Aquino and all these people were in the military who are open Satanists. I mean, it's amazing to me how, if you told me this when I was like 15 years old, which was a while ago, I would definitely understand, and say, oh, this can't be. This is like, how could we allow this to happen? There's people doing this. There's people in power and all this. And then when you start connecting the dots and you wake up, you just keep rolling your eyes because you just go, what a surprise. Anytime I hear any of this stuff, it's going to connect back to Satanism, the occult. It's going to. And you know that the people that they're going to constantly glorify, right, are going to be these people who are wicked, awful, disgusting human beings. And they're never going to tell you what their true, what they were and their essence at the core was, their rituals that were done. Crowley's house over at Jimmy Page bought, the house where all of these rituals with kids and animals were. I mean, just disgusting, disturbing stuff. But instead they're going to tell you what geniuses they were and entrepreneurs, right, and Crowley was just a man of novelty. He was writing novels, and was he? When he was what? But was this before or after he was? I can't even say. I won't even say, just out of the fact that YouTube won't let me. But it's also disgusting. So they say Crowley, again, is going to be a featured character in this season, and they're going to start showing, showing and teaching people and indoctrinating them with Thelema. And that's exactly what they want to do, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they, go into, the age of the Golden Dawn and all these other secret societies or these other, occultic groups and start normalizing this stuff through these shows. Now, I know this isn't the most popular show on the planet. A lot of people probably don't know what it is because I think it's on CBS Access or CBS Stream, which is like a new Netflix. Like all these channels are trying to create their own streaming services. So I couldn't tell you what the ratings are. I can only tell you that they've renewed the show. Okay, so they brought it back. And clearly they're bringing it back for a reason. You're going to see L. Ron Hubbard be brought into it as well, because Hubbard was also in the desert performing a lot of these rituals where Area 51 was, with Crowley, with Parsons. The three of them were performing these rituals there, and that's one of the reasons that area out there is so secure. It's not because alien spacecraft landed in Area 51. I mean, give me a break. Right? But I mean, you could preach this stuff till the cows come home, but it's amazing to me, at the very least, how people who are on the fence about this stuff don't see how these specific people, and you could research them for themselves, for yourself, for themselves, for whoever's out there listening. You can't see how these people are being glorified, and how look at how Christians are being portrayed in all these television shows, right? These dorky characters, judgmental characters, hateful bigots, right? Jesus is being mocked left and right. You have PewDiePie and these guys promoting a fake Jesus mocker on YouTube, and the guy has 1 million subs. These are the things that they want out there because they want to continue to destroy Christianity in the eyes of the youth, because that's the ones that they're targeting. They know they can't do anything to us, me and you, the listener, as far as persuading us and making us change our faith, and following them. But it's the youth out there. If they can tell the youth and trick the youth, the kids who are 5 years old now and, will be 10 in 5 years, if they could bring them up in a world that's godless, send them to schools that are don't teach the word, don't even mention God, just teach this bogus evolution crap, and then have these characters, these people portrayed as heroes in society, and then of course have the false idols fall behind it, like Katy Perry and all these celebrities who push all of the agendas from trans to LGBT, all of it. This is how they corrupt their minds. This is how they get them away from Christianity. This is what the falling away is all about. Now, the falling away, I believe, has already occurred. I mean, we could still be in the middle of it, By the way, it just continues to happen. But sooner or later, there's going to be a godless, completely godless society where, me and you, the listener, we're not going to be around forever to help wake people up. That's why it's important to pass this information on to your kids. At least just try to get people to think. I'm not trying to convince anyone to believe everything that I believe. I understand we're still, as people who are awakened, have different opinions on agendas or things that we see. For example, something like Donald Trump, right? So many people believe and want to have hope and believe that. I don't think that you're not awake if you believe that. I just don't agree. Doesn't mean that we're not on the same page as far as what's going on in the world, right? I just don't believe in the left, right. I don't believe we're in a republic. But I don't say that to be a know-it-all, because I could be wrong. I mean, I doubt it when it comes to that. But that's just an example. But I know we're not all going to see things. But you gotta, if you could just start showing people just the stuff that's just being repeated over and over, and people realizing that the things that they say, they don't even know what they're saying. They're just regurgitated sayings, right? Be your own you. Work hard, play hard. Like, what is this stuff? Work hard. These are all sayings, and this is all part of this self-idolatry lifestyle and mindset they want people to have. So anyway, I'm going off on a rant off the topic. I just think it's important that people know and see, why these people are now being glorified in society and why they're continuing to mock and bury and kick Christians. Because they want this society to be completely godless. And they're going to do everything they can to get it. And, sooner or later the trumpets are going to sound. So you want to be on the right side. And the right side is Jesus Christ. Realizing that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way. So make sure if you haven't picked up your Bible, you pick it up. And you realize that salvation could only be obtained through Christ. Not through any of this other nonsense that's out there in this world. Not through buying cars, houses, jewelry, nothing. That will only get you so far. You'll be happy for a day until it gets dust on it. The next day you'll say, what's next? Well, what's next should be what's always, and that's Jesus Christ. So if you haven't picked up your Bible, pick it up. I thank you for listening to today's show. Make sure people know that this garbage is going on and what Aleister Crowley is really about. Absolute garbage. I thank you again for listening. God bless all of you and your families.